Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Chiefs Blitz Breaking News Show. Here are your hosts, Mr. Bowtie Sports, a.k.a. Hense Todd, and the Juice Kid, the KC Mango.
Brilliant stuff there. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. I am the KC Mango. You can probably tell that I am not joined by Hense Todd today. I'm joined by the one and only Sweet Lou. How are you doing today, Lou?
That's right. A little paler than our predecessor here, but yeah, whose voice was that? That was That's an interesting voiceover at the beginning.
It's a guy called Alan.
Beautiful. Well done.
Thank you,
well
Alan.
done. That's my first time hearing that. So that was that got me rolling. So all right. So yeah, some stuff going on in the wide receiver room, Mango. What do you got for us?
Let's get straight into it. If you've not seen, the breaking news is that the Kansas City Chiefs have re-signed wide receiver Hollywood Brown on a 1-year deal, which is up to $11 million, and that's from Tom Pelissero. Lou, what's your immediate reaction to this deal?
Hollywood swinging, baby. Kind of the same reaction from last year. Obviously was when free agency started, but it looks like it's basically a do-over, right?
Yes.
I mean, he goes out that first play of the preseason against Jacksonville, and he gets back at the end, and everybody saw that there were some flashes, right? There were some plays that looks like this is the way we're going to go. And he was going to be a big addition to the team, but never really got that opportunity through the entire training camp, through all the preseason. And hopefully, with the experience of coming back late in the year, he can kind of hit the ground running, especially since we have such a dearth at the wide receiver position right now. And there was some other breaking news earlier that wasn't so good. So, do-over for Hollywood. Thankful for having him back, and it's great. He gets the news of a new deal on his son's birthday.
Exactly. Yeah. What more could he want? Hense is chiming in all the way from the Big 12. Let's go.
All right. Yes. Hense doing double duty basketball, right? Let's go.
I mean, he's everywhere at the minute. He can't be stopped.
Yeah.
His deal last year was also up to $11 million. I don't think we have the numbers how it's set out this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same structure for the most part.
Like I said, I mean, it sounds like a complete do-over right down to the contract. There might be some more guarantees since he was here all of last year, but that remains to be seen. The bottom line is we get back a veteran wide receiver with some speed. Hard to speculate what's going on with the rest of the wide receiver room, with whether it be Rashid, Xavier. So those are kind of TBDs, and really Hollywood's the only one. I mean, Sky is still under contract. Nico's there. He came in as more of a special teamer when he got his opportunity, and he did really well with that. We'll see if he kind of elevates his game during the summer and during the OTAs to the point where they can trust them to be one of their top 5 receivers. But in terms of this breaking news, the cynic in me says, wow, like one thing led to another, or maybe it sped things up, in terms of the negotiating, what they were going to sign. But just the fact that it was the same as last year's deal, that's just people, trying to connect dots, and maybe it was just a big coincidence, but it's certainly the Chiefs need this, right? We talked yesterday on the show about potential free agents coming back, and on Factor Cap, I was kind of positing the idea that maybe it's only Trey, and they just kind of wipe the slate clean and, fill in with the draft and a bunch of free agents. But I like the signing. I think this is a good move, really low risk as far as the Chiefs are concerned. And it seemed like he really gave a boost to that room from the day that he set foot on campus last year.
Absolutely. It's actually really interesting you say that. I got a message at 5:39 p.m. UK time today. It's currently 7:37, saying the Chiefs have officially tabled their first offer to Hollywood Brown. And then at 6:01 p.m. UK time, the news came out that he'd signed. So was it a chain reaction?
It seems really convenient, I guess if you were writing a script, or a move, that would certainly make it more interesting, right?
Yeah.
But you got to believe that it may have been on the table. But from the Chiefs side, maybe they gave some more guarantees and say, hey, we need to get this done now before free agency. And obviously Hollywood knows that. I mean, otherwise he would have gone to the market because we are so close. I mean, hell, Monday his agent could start talking to other teams legally. So that all said, again, I'll repeat myself. This is a great do-over for all parties involved, because everything that we were expecting going into the signing last year, I think, is on the table for him this year, and we need him.
Yeah,
it's simple. We need wide receivers, and he's a vet. Like I said, speed, everything about him points to being successful as long as he's healthy.
Yeah. How do you think Patrick's feeling about this move? Do you think he would have been pushing for it behind the scenes, given that he didn't really get to utilize his connection with Hollywood all that well last year?
Yeah, I think so. I think he was locked in on him from last year. And I don't think anything that happened this year would have changed that. Only the fact that he was probably upset that, he didn't get a chance to play with him more. But during, the end of the season, during the playoff run, again, he wasn't making huge plays, but you could see the offense kind of taking shape, or what it could be. And especially Xavier's game may have opened up a little bit more once Hollywood was in the lineup. So it remains to be seen who's going to be available during the course of the offseason, training camp, everything else. Knock on wood, everything kind of works itself out, and they can get this behind them. But just in terms of today, very excited, and this is good for the Chiefs for sure.
So yeah, like you said, there's a bit of confusion, the unknown of who's going to be available at the start of next year.
Yeah.
Let's just say theoretically, no suspension has been dished out for both Rashid and Xavier.
Yeah.
What kind of role do you think Hollywood is going to assume this year, given that he's going to be fully healthy?
Well, he's never been, like the guy, the number one guy. I don't know that that's really part of his game. He would be like an exceptional, number 3 or potentially number 2 receiver. I think that would be the best case scenario. He would be like a number 2 receiver. So that begs the question, okay, so then who's the number 1 receiver? In years past, I would always say that Travis was always the number 1 option, and he was the number 1 receiver, even though, he's listed as a tight end. But, he's obviously in this kind of like the back end of his career and probably his last season. So I don't think they can count on him for that much. So who's it going to be? They're certainly going to draft at least 1 receiver. We'll know, or we'll get some inkling to maybe a plan moving forward for some guys starting on Monday, just to see, if they're in on some of the bigger names. But again, there aren't that many big names available in terms of free agency. You talk about DK Metcalf, that would be a trade.
Yeah.
So what would they be willing to give up in terms of a trade? I would imagine Seattle, they say a first and a third, but of course that first salvo is always going to be like shoot for the moon. I think it turns out probably be like a second round pick and maybe a later round pick, or maybe a pick swap in a later round, because you're going to have to pay him a ton of money. That hasn't been in the Chiefs formula for their team since Patrick has been here, and after they traded away Tyreek, to go and pay a wide receiver that kind of money. Does the desperation or just kind of the whole unsettled room make them change their plan? I don't believe so. So perhaps you see like later on, or, after that first wave of free agency, some of the lesser names. But again, you can't count on any of those guys to be a number 1. Stephon Diggs, Darius Slayton, names like that. Amari Cooper maybe comes to be. He hasn't shown it lately. He has in the past, whether with the Raiders or with the Cowboys for a short time. he showed that ability. But at this stage of the game, his age and whatever, can you really bring somebody in and expect them to be the number one receiver, even if it's only for like, I don't know, 4 to 6 games? But you will see them active in wide receiver free agency, because I don't think you can run it back with the guys that they had at the end. Unless the belief is somebody like D-Hop comes back again at a reduced number, and they feel that for whatever reason, coming in the middle of the year didn't really give him the full opportunity to make himself that guy.
Yeah.
Now, do they believe that? He's a year older. He's not going to be any faster. So there's a lot of unanswered questions. I mean, Juju, I think he would be almost like at this point of his career, kind of a glorified tight end.
Yeah.
And he's a big dude. So not that you're going to have him inline blocking, but in terms of just kind of working that middle of the field, big body guy. And then he does still have some speed. So again, it would be kind of a situational thing, not a number one target. Justin Watson always seems to be around, and 10, 20 times a year, he'll make a play, but that's really not, something you can rely on. Sky has never really shown the ability to be a consistent, NFL wide receiver. So a lot of question marks, more questions than answers for sure.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, we'll catch you right up. The Chiefs have re-signed Hollywood Brown on a 1-year deal up to $11 million. So basically, same deal as he was here last year on. Lou, I just want to go through a list of some free agent wide receivers and see if you would personally take them in Kansas City. Maybe talk about who fits best.
Sure.
This one has been, speculated upon before. Deontay Johnson, formerly of Panthers, Texans everywhere this season.
It's never really been good wherever he's gone. He did have a couple of decent seasons, one really big year in Pittsburgh where he famously I don't think he scored a touchdown, but had like 100 catches.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, he's shown the ability, but there's something wherever he goes, there's always issues. And you figured when he finally went to Houston and Diggs was out, that was going to work out. And that just blew up almost immediately.
Yeah.
So that would be a hard pass just based on the fact that mentally you don't know what you're getting. So absolutely not.
Stephon Diggs.
Diggs, you'd have to check out the medicals, how he's come off of it. Knee injuries are one thing, but knee injuries at this age, this stage of the game, where they're tending to slow down in terms of wide receivers at, just naturally. Now all of a sudden torn ACL, and a lot of times even for the younger players, that first year back is always kind of almost a red shirt year. You get something out of them, okay, great, but typically it's the year after. And by then he's 33 or 34 years old, or however old, close to 30 now. That's a tough one. But if it's just kind of like a reduced deal and it's just they don't have any other options, I hate that. It's not really a ringing endorsement for sure, but he would certainly be under consideration for sure.
Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
Where's Nick? Play the tape. Or else let's get Coach in here and get his feedback. The only thing, if they were really nothing against MVS, but if they were really desperate, if it gets to like after the draft, right, and they still haven't plugged in all the holes, maybe only because he is familiar with the program. He's been in this offense. He has been reasonably successful in the past, made some big plays here and there, always seemed to step up in the playoff games. And I'm sure that would be, quite honestly, I would say it would be up to Patrick. I mean, I hate to say, but I think at that point he would have to kind of sign off.
Yeah. Tyler Lockett.
Why, again, his size, I don't know that he's really slowed down. And watching him play in Seattle, he still seems to be pretty spry. And without Xavier, you're not really duplicating the same body type, because a lot of times, and again, you've probably heard the thing in the past, or, wide receiver group, it's almost like a basketball team. You got your guards, your power forwards, you got your center, all these different body shapes and types. So you wouldn't be duplicating efforts there. So being kind of a local guy, his father played for the Chiefs. They both went to K-State. That piece of it would be, from a PR standpoint, I think would be great. But in terms of on the field, again, if you're bringing in him to be like a third or fourth, that would be a great move.
Who else do we have? You mentioned this one earlier. Darius Slayton.
Darius Slayton's been a favorite of mine for years, and it's always like he's almost there. I mean, it's like every year he'll go on a stretch of like 2 or 3 games, like, okay, here he goes, and then it kind of falls off. So you tend to think or kind of explain that away. Well, he's playing with Daniel Jones, playing for the Giants last year. Malik Neighbors kind of blew up, but Slayton still did pretty well. Again, if you're bringing him in to be your number 3 or 4, potentially a 2 in a pinch, if they don't have, if they really get some bad news on the 2 young guys, Rasheed and Xavier, then I think you go. Now, he may be one of those guys that gets deeply overpaid. I've always said it. I'm sure it's been said by others. The biggest mistake you can make in free agency, or one of them, is bringing in a guy that's like a number 2 or 3 and expecting him to elevate in your program. Unless, of course, it's like a T. Higgins. And that's like a once in a lifetime that, you've got 2 guys on the same team that are virtual number 1 receivers. But they expect Slayton to come in and all of a sudden become this huge producer. If he's complementing your group, sure. But if you're expecting him to come in and just elevate his game, you're probably going to be disappointed.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great option, also given that Mike Kafka connection he has over in New York. You look at his stats, he's had 3 or 4 seasons of 700 plus receiving yards, and that's with a quarterback. This is no
shaky at the best quarterback play.
But I feel like that'd be and we were also, prior to the D-Hop trade, he was one of the names that, like Jeremy Fowler was throwing out there that was being considered. So like the connection's always kind of been there.
He's got all the measurables. He's a big dude. He's fast. Some drops, issues here and there. I mean, a little bit like MVS, but he's not as slight as MVS. He's a little more stout, a little stronger guy. So, I mean, the Chiefs can probably make just about any wide receiver work. It's just that again, if you're looking for that, number 1 type option, like a Rasheed, potentially Xavier Worthy, but lesser than Rasheed, I don't know that he's going to be that guy. And I don't think that guy is available unless, of course, they hit on someone in the draft. But free agency, you would certainly have, keep an eye on Slayton's situation and see what his market is. And if it fits, then certainly, they would contact his representation and see what they could do.
Could I interest you in one Demarcus Robinson?
I love D-Rob. I love me some D-Rob. I don't know what what his market is outside of the Rams. I mean, obviously the Rams know what he is. I would kind of expect him to re-sign there, especially if Cooper Kupp walks. Not to say they're the same player, but just to have some depth. They brought back Tutu Atwell, but again, smaller guy. D-Rob just seems to make plays. Again, he would be that perfect complementary guy, number 3 or 4. But, again, since the Chiefs really don't have many options, he could be on the back end of that room, certainly a guy. But I'm sure he feels like he's elevated himself from that. So somebody's going to come across and maybe give him a 2 or 3 year deal versus just a 1 year prove it.
Maybe not, given, his potential legal trouble. We don't want to be down 3 receivers.
Hey now.
The list starts to get pretty thin after that. I mean,
Yeah, I
Freshly,
mentioned Amari Cooper. I don't know
yeah.
what he's got left in the tank. What the deal was in Buffalo. Again, you come to a team that in the middle of the year, they kind of have their rhythm and how they play, and then he's just trying to. He's not like the most vociferous guy, if you would, or he's not going to clamor and kind of raise his voice and stuff. So I think I got the sense that maybe he was just trying to find a way to fit in and really never did. I mean, the biggest mention he got was on that play against San Francisco where he lateraled the ball back to Josh Allen and he scores a touchdown. So I don't know if you get a hockey assist or what the hell that is, but again, that would be worth, I guess, like the pro personnel people, what they saw on tape. Did they feel like it was just a bad situation, or who knows? They might even bring him back. I mean, Buffalo's been signing I think they've signed like 3 or 4 of their guys in the last couple of days.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't re-signed Matt Collins yet. He's a receiver out on the free agent market.
Yeah, he's another one of those guys that just, I don't know if he just caught lightning in a bottle. I mean, he is one of those guys. He's all the tools and whatever. I mean, I remember him playing at North Carolina and thinking, I mean, he was going to be a really good player. And it's just never, again, he'll show flashes, but not a lot of consistency. That was probably his best year, in the league and last year. And to me, it was completely unexpected.
Speaking of wide receivers, we are Chiefs Blitz. The Chiefs have 4 pending free agent wide receivers. Would you bring any of them back? DeAndre Hopkins, Justin Watson, Juju Smith-Schuster, McCall Hardman?
Wow. Again, it's going to be based on situationally. I mean, if you're looking right now at building the room, I think it's more so, who's going to fit in and where. I mean, any number of them have fit in the past. Again, Juju can serve in kind of like a different way and kind of be that additional tight end that is not listed as a tight end, but that's kind of the way he plays now.
Yeah.
I mean, McColl, you're really not going to get a ton from him. I mean, he's made some plays here and there, but he's never been a guy you could really rely on. And that's kind of the position that they're in right now. These guys have kind of been at the back of the room and never been asked to be counted on. I don't know that you can all of a sudden ask them to now. Whereas somebody like D-Hop has always been that guy. So it's in him. But again, they know better than anyone where the physical skills at. Mentally, I'm sure it's still there. I'm sure he still wants to be, that guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. We didn't see enough of it last year, or on some of the plays that he did make, it was a little bit earlier in the situation. And then as the playoffs went on, he became less and less involved. And then, of course, the big drop in the Super Bowl, which, again, you're not going to ding him for one play, but it just was, I don't know, Chris Jones probably said it best by not saying anything and just falling off the bench. Like, what else can go wrong today?
Exactly, yeah. Once again, if you are just joining us, Lou, why don't you tell them why we are live right now?
Well, here we go. Hollywood swinging. He is back. The ultimate do-over. Chiefs are re-signing wide receiver Hollywood Brown on a 1-year deal up to $11 million. Stop me if you've heard this before. Around this time last year, maybe about a week later. I don't know exactly what the date was, but we're excited that Hollywood's going to be back. And it's kind of lonely in that wide receiver room right now for Chiefs that are under contract.
He's like the only guy all by himself, pretty much, really.
He and Sky. I think those are the only 2 under contract.
Yeah. Obviously, we're a couple of days away from the official start of, legal tampering and free agency. What do you think the Chiefs should do at left tackle? Because this has been a question that's been going on.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it on yesterday's show. I think Ronnie Stanley is probably the best option out there. And given his age, I don't think his representation is going to be respected or expecting like a Trent Williams type deal. I don't know that he's ever been that good, but yeah, he was a pretty pretty top end prospect coming out of Notre Dame. Was a top 5 pick. I mean, all those things. He may have had his best year last year, and I can hear Hense in my ear saying that the contract year is undefeated, but he did. He played in every game, which I'm sure they weren't expecting that, given the fact that he's had some injuries along the way. But I mean, the shape that the Chiefs are in at that position puts them in this position to be like, not that they're completely rolling the dice on the guy, but it's not like a 5-year, $120 million deal. We posited yesterday that perhaps like a 3-year deal, low 60s, or a 2-year deal, mid 40s, right? With, a decent portion, guaranteed over the 2 years and whatever. But I don't think he's going to get a long-term deal. But in terms of somebody that they could plug in right away and feel reasonably confident that, not that it's that they've immediately elevated. Well, no, the bar is low. It is elevated, but it should be under control, at least for that, 2 years, even if it's a 3-year deal, 2 years, and maybe if they have an out, for that 3rd year. But that's their best option at this point, I believe.
I said to you last night in the group, I believe, just ring up Seattle about Charles Cross at this point, because I don't know what the hell's going on over there.
Yeah, they are kind of cleaning house a little bit, but he's kind of a younger player. I don't know what, I'm not sure what his contract status is at this point. You probably know better than I do, but always worth a call. I'm sure any GM worth their salt. I mean, they stay in touch with these guys, and especially with the Chiefs having that hole at left tackle, I'm sure Brett's talking to all his buddies in the business.
He's currently on last year of his rookie deal. Has a cap hit this year of $6.8 million.
Did they pick up his 5th-year option? Does it mention that?
It's available. It hasn't said it's been triggered yet.
Yeah, usually that would have been done, before last off season. So if they didn't, again, you really have to. This is where you rely on your pro personnel people, because you have to think at that age, you drafted him. If you're not re-signing him, like basically the same speech I gave about Trey Smith, there's got to be something wrong, right? I mean, there just has to be some. Either they're not happy with his level of play, he's not an elite player, so they're not going to extend him, that sort of thing. So, decisions would have to be made on that. I don't think I could speak intelligently on him and where he is in his play status. But you would think they would have extended a guy they draft, especially John Schneider. I mean, he coming from Green Bay, draft and develop. I mean, that's kind of their motto. I mean, that's how they roll. That's their business plan.
Yeah. Ruben de Cruz, a bit of a statement, this one. Charles is gone. Do you think the Chiefs are able to retain him, Lou?
Depends on if they want to. If they do want to, it would be probably similar deals that they'll offer all these guys. I don't know that any of them are going to get offered long-term deals outside of Trey Smith.
Yeah.
Turk Wharton might be the only one, just because given his age and the fact that he came in as a UDFA for the Chiefs. I mean, not necessarily a draft choice, but is a guy that you've developed. Charles, again, seems like a great dude, dog mentality, all that. But looking back at his career, he's not always been consistently available. So yes, when he's on the field, it's great. But, again, you're flirting with getting into the, late 20s, early 30s. And are you really going to offer him a big contract? Maybe they let him check out the market, and all these guys, they'll figure out where it goes. And some team may offer him, a decent contract. And if they do, great. If not, the Chiefs offer him a 1-year deal at a reduced rate. You'd love to have him back, but you got to have him within your budget.
Yeah. So I think that's about it, really. We've discussed what needs to be discussed. I'm sure Nick will have something to say about the Xavier Worthy situation on Monday's show.
Sure.
When
Yeah,
there's
it just
information.
Yeah, again, you got to wait for all the facts. Like, just their initial reaction is just kind of disbelief, disappointment. I mean, we're hearing different bits and pieces. We don't know how accurate the reports are at this point. So I guess just cooler heads prevail. Let's see kind of how it plays out, and hopefully the league doesn't slap them too hard if the courts, if they decide that they're not going to bring charges. We'll see.
Yeah. Where can the people find you on social media, Lou?
Well, on Twitter is really the only place I live. I believe it's at Lou Montagna. I even forget. I don't know. Just look at
it. Under
Chief Blitz. You'll find my at handle. So yeah, Facebook as well. Luigi Montagna. That's my given name. Luigi. Same last name. So yeah.
All right. Hollywood Brown is a Chief.
Hollywood swinging, baby.
See you on Monday, guys. Thank you for tuning in.